first technique is the buffed on texture. Tell me about this technique.
This technique is great for any paint that has a heavy body. So
Okay.
paint that's thick. If you have any paint at home that's dried up, almost, you can use that as well. But
Okay.
fluid paint really won't work for this. So grab your tag. We're going to
Okay.
start with a little bit of night. Why use night? No reason, except that I want more than one color on my tag.
Okay.
I feel like, why do one when you can do two? So thin coat. So that first color can go on as thin as you want it to be. Anything really is fine. The second color, however, must go on really thick. And so don't wet your brush. I just wipe it off on my apron or on the rag that's in my lap. I'm gonna pick up that second color, and you wanna put it on so thick that you could see visible brush strokes. You wanna see lumps and bumps. Okay, so I'm gonna pick this heavy body paint up. Heavy body is an art term, which means thick. That means it's got
Okay.
not a lot of water in that paint. And you don't wanna knock all of those brush strokes down. You want them to be thick and impasto. Impasto is an art term that means visible texture. So just like Van Gogh would make paintings that look like you could, if you were allowed to touch them, you'll get in trouble if you touch them, but if you're
Yes.
allowed to, you could feel all that texture coming down. You want this to be that way. So don't make it smooth, make it nice and rough. Now, when you're putting paint on this thick, you are going to have a price to pay, and that price is time.
Mm-hmm.
You need to let it dry. So once you get that layer on nice and thick like that,
Okay.
and if you can see brush strokes, that's perfect. So we have one here that is ready and dry so that we can buff over it. So this one's dry. If you look at them, you can see, even just touch it, you can feel those lumps and bumps from all the brush strokes, right? And now we're going to put another color of paint right over it, and then we're gonna buff it off. And it's gonna create a really velvety finish. It's gonna look like suede almost. It's gonna be a subtle texture. It's not going to be in your face technique necessarily,
Okay.
but people will look at it and be like, oh, how'd you do that? And it's one color buffed over the other. Now the idea here with this second color is to put it down into the grooves. So we're going to put a little metallic. You can do any color you want though. I'm in a metallic mood today, so that's what we're getting. And I'm gonna put a thin coat of that paint on with a dry brush, and then I'm gonna wipe it off. So you want that third color at this point to get down into all the valleys, is what I call them, all the crevices of all that texture. It actually looks kind of cool like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, put a little bit more on there for me.
Okay.
And then we're going to rub with a dry cloth. If you do use a baby wipe, you'll rub it all away. So there won't really be any buffing. It'll just be bye-bye third color. But you want a dry cloth. You could use a paper towel if you like. So we're gonna use these dry cotton cloths. We're gonna gently rub. Now, if you rub so hard that you're getting all the paint out of the nooks and crannies, then we're kind of defeating the point, right? So you're rubbing gently.
And so we're not even letting this dry for a little bit.
No, you could. I mean, you can go and refill your drink or,
Okay.
but you don't want it to really set. I can't even emphasize how lightly I'm rubbing, just so light that I'm getting the paint off the top of the texture and I'm leaving it down in all those nooks and crannies. And here's what happens if you rub too much off. You can put more back on.
Yeah.
Right? You can do what I call lather, rinse, repeat, meaning if you rub too much off, put more color back on and rub it again. Now, the more you work, the better it's going to look. So
Okay.
I keep focusing on all of those raised areas now, making sure that I'm not pulling it out of the valleys. I think it looks good.
Yeah, I think so too. I like it.
It just creates a nice subtle effect. Isn't that gorgeous?
Yeah.
It's just a really pretty texture to use in your work. Here's a page that I've done with this texture. This one I did not rub with metallic. It's actually night rubbed over the violet.
Okay.
But it just really went with the whole rich color palette of this page. Not a typical Dina page. I'm usually neon, bright, 1980s color pop. But I was in love with that velvety purple, and so the page echoes that. And I did manage to get my metallic on there. I did metallic dots on the top. But it creates just a really lovely subtle finish that you can use in different areas, on pages, on canvas. You could do a stripe in the middle of a canvas with this technique.
Ooh, that's
And
a good idea.
Yeah, it just creates something different visually to look at in all of your paintings.